Alright, the Steam frame was just announced. I'm making this video mostly because I have thoughts on it. I haven't had the chance to use it. I am not Gamers Nexus and Linus, but I do know the specs. I understand what it is they're producing, and I think I have a good idea of what this is going to cost and how it's going to compare to something like the MetaQuest 3. So we're going to talk about it. Thank you for being here. If this is your first time, please subscribe and like this video. We got more to talk about. Later this month, I'm going to be tackling a ton of Black Friday savings. In one case, it's up to $100 off. I'm covering the Pimax. I'm covering the Wooger Vest. And there's a lot to talk about. You guys are watching Bringhurst VR. Need this fantasy. Okay, so this is the Valve Deckard, and now we know that it is in fact the Steam frame, and it's launching alongside the Steam Machine, which is a kind of revival of something they've tried in the past. I'm not going to focus too much on the Steam Machine. Suffice it to say, it's a computer that runs Steam OS. You have the ability and option to install Windows, and it's an entry-level gaming machine. You can think of it as a kind of beefed up Steam Deck. I fully expect that that's going to launch for between $900 and $1,200. It's not going to be out of this world, but I'm going to comment on that more down the line. The Steam frame is the headset that they're launching, which is not necessarily in tandem with that machine, but they'll work well together, just like the Steam Deck works well with Steam that you have on your PC. They're going to be one in one, kind of an ecosystem, the way that Apple has an ecosystem. You have the iPad and the iPhone and your Mac, and everything works together, and I think that ultimately that's what they're trying to do. But per the specs, the Steam frame is very similar to the MetaQuest 3 in a number of ways. The Quest 3 has pancake lenses, so does this. The Quest 3 has resolution of 2064 by 2064, and the Steam frame has a resolution of 2160 by 2160. So it's a difference of about 100 pixels. They both operate with outward-facing SLAM tracking cameras to where base stations are a thing of the past, and Valve has gone on to say that they're done producing the Valve Index. That's done. They'll probably support it. If something goes wrong with a unit that you have now, they'll take care of you, but they're not going to produce it any longer. This is the future. The Quest 3 has color pass-through, which is mostly, I think, meant to be used in tandem with hand tracking and mixed reality experiences. Valve has no interest in pursuing that. Out of the box, these are monochrome cameras to where they do the job, they track, they can even see in the dark because on the headset they have outward-facing low-level lights that those lenses, those cameras can pick up. The controllers are very much the same. At a glance, you'd think that they're kind of the same. And they are, physically, ergonomically, they look the exact same. They have lights around them that you can't see, but the headset can. And so whether you're in the dark, the cameras on the headset are going to pick those up, and tracking is expected to be pretty decent. Now, the Quest has 4 cameras for tracking, and so does the Steam frame, but the Steam frame has them built in such a way that they're ultra wide, as I understand it, wider than the Quest 3, and the two on the edges are specifically horizontally facing, to where I expect you're going to have much better tracking. If you were to pull an arrow from your quiver over your back, I don't think there's any guessing. I don't think that you're going to have to rely on some kind of algorithm because your hands have disappeared for a second. I think it's going to do the trick. And Linus said as much in the video that he created. I don't want to get too in the weeds with this, but this video is meant to be, what is the difference between the MetaQuest 3 and the Steam frame? I'm coming at it as a Quest 3 user, someone who's been happy to see the upgrades that we've had, to have something that was seemingly low level at the onset, and the cameras were updated and we had better hand tracking and pass-through was stitched together in such a way that it just worked, and everything just continually improves. And at $500, it's a steal. And so who is the Steam frame for? That's what I want to tackle here. That's what I'm going to focus on. There are tons of specs regarding Proton, which is the software that Steam uses to translate x86 software, Windows software to play on Steam OS. And now they have something called FEX, which does the same thing. It takes Windows software and translates it so that Steam OS, which is Linux based, can take that Windows 86 output and kind of translate it to Steam OS. That's what Proton was, and FEX is meant to do the same thing, but for VR experiences. And so that's what's happening. What the Steam Frame has that the Quest 3 simply does not is a foveated rendering. They're calling it Foviated Streaming for a reason. Right now, with something like the MetaQuest Pro, they allow foveated rendering, so that what happens is that it's got eye tracking, cameras built into the headset, and depending on where you look, it tells the system only focus on that. Render this portion because that's all that matters. That's what they're looking at, and disregard everything else. And by doing that, you save power, you lower the bandwidth required to produce an image, a frame, and it just makes everything you look at super high resolution. All the while, you're unaware that everything else around you in your periphery is lower resolution and not meant to be noticed. But the problem with that is that you always had to have the developer bake that into it. You had to hope that the creator of some game took the time to work that into their system to make use of it. And in that sense, that game would then run smoother. You'd have a higher frame rate, better graphics, because less power was being diverted to the entire array of pixels that you were looking at. But what Steam has done, they've gone out of their way, and this is a base level integration to where they don't need permission from the developers. They don't need anyone to tick a box. It just works by streaming it from your PC. It just takes it and shoves it into that headset. And what that means is that while the Steam machine has less power, a lesser GPU than the machine I'm recording this with, they can produce probably something pretty impressive, considering they don't have to send as much data to the headset when you're playing. And that's cool. That's awesome. Now, the Steam Frame has got just a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to touch on everything in this video, but they do have a port near the nose portion where you'd be able to plug in additional accessories, presumably color pass-through cameras, microphones, additional cameras for more facial tracking. There's a ton that you could do with it, and I'm excited to see what indie developers and enthusiasts do with it. But out of the box right now, it's monochrome, which means that we're not seeing a huge push toward mixed reality. We're not seeing hand tracking in the way that the MetaQuest 3 has. Meta is all in on hand tracking and pass through. If nothing else, it's their single core focus. And again, that could change. With the inclusion of that port to where you could add stuff, they could very easily incorporate further things down the line. But right now, at launch, it's expected to not have it. And so that's a rough thing, differences between these. Field of view is equally about 110 degrees. Lenses are both pancake. The controllers are much the same. The chipset in the Steam Frame is considerably more robust. It is not the same chip that the MetaQuest 3 has, but it's also still a mobile chip, something that you'd find in a modern day smartphone. And so it is not a GPU that you'd expect from a gaming PC. It's going to be able to play standalone games like Beat Saber, and typically whatever the Quest 3 can play, you'd be able to port that in with an SD card, for instance, and play the game. But something like Half-Life Alyx, I don't think it's going to work on this headset. I just don't see it happening without it being severely dumbed down. Granted, the foveated rendering is going to do wonders for the game and how it plays, but I just don't think it's going to work. Just like on the Steam Deck, you've got these verified icons, a library of games that work well on the Steam Deck, and it's got different levels of success, works good, works fine. They're going to be incorporating that with the Steam Frame, but it is a mobile chipset. And I don't believe that you're going to be playing standalone Half-Life Alyx without the aid of a computer. Now, I personally play Half-Life Alyx. all the time, and I do it by using Virtual Desktop, a dedicated wireless router, and it's good. There are some artifacts, but I don't necessarily care. It works fine. And you could do the same thing with the Steam frame. You could use Virtual Desktop, assuming that there is an easy to install FEX Proton release of the application, or if you wipe it and install Windows, then yeah. But they're also including, with your purchase, a Wi-Fi dongle to where you would plug that up to the Steam machine, and it sends a dedicated transmission straight to the headset that bypasses and cuts through whatever Wi-Fi noise happens to be around you. I have a dedicated router right here, but downstairs I have a Wi-Fi 6E router that is shared with other devices, and it is a thing to where you need line of sight. That's not going to change, but it's a muddy process to where if you want a really clean, precise signal that just cuts down on all that traffic around you. There's so many signals from your phone to the refrigerator to your computer. There's just so much, and this is designed to cut through it. There's no competing with the bandwidth. It's just straight from your computer to your headset. Watching something like Tested on YouTube, they go on to say that it's virtually a wired connection in terms of the data that is seemingly lost along the way. It's perfect. Unlike the Valve Index, this does not come with headphones built in, though they are talking about creating additional head straps, headphone accessories. They know people like to play with this stuff, and even if they didn't do that, you can be sure that indie developers, creators would be quick to create some kind of hardware to accommodate that. But if I'm talking about who is interested in this headset, I gotta say, I don't think it's me, and it might be you. I don't know. The Quest 3 is $500. This is going to be $1,000, probably, maybe $900. And the problem is that this is not out yet. It's not going to even be available for pre-order until, early next year. And I'm quite confident that by the time that happens, we're going to have some Quest 4 leaks that are meaningful. And I can guarantee, if you're from the future and you're watching this, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that I'm completely off base, but the Quest 4 is going to have eye tracking. It's going to have foveated rendering built in from the bottom floor. And I tend to think that minus the enormous library the Steam already has, which is awesome, the Quest 4 is going to be better in every way. Because the Steam frame didn't put a lot out there. It's the same resolution, it's the same lenses, it's the same field of view. All that it's really offering is quick access to a library that you already love, but that isn't yet created for the purpose of incorporating indie low power games. It's not as if you can go to the Steam store and buy the Quest 3 version of Beat Saber. They're two different games, and I'm curious how Steam is going to overcome that. I understand that you could stream the game from your computer, but for people who don't have a gaming PC, I don't believe that you're going to be able to take Beat Saber as it stands on Steam VR and incorporate it, copy it to the Steam frame, and expect a smooth 90 frames per second while maintaining that high resolution, that high fidelity image. I think that there's a reason that it's dumbed down on the Quest 3. All I can think is that they're going to be opening up some kind of a new storefront to where all of the success that Meta has seen with this storefront, to where you can get Onward at a lower resolution, lower texture, lower output, and they're going to upload that to Steam, and you're going to be able to buy. Do you want the full PC capable game, or do you want the lower resolution, kind of dumbed down version? And doubtless that's what's going to happen if they don't want people pirating and copying and using SD cards to do this and that. All these games are going to trickle in over time. It's going to be a slow process. Valve has a ton of games. They have an enormous library, and I adore my library. But they currently don't have the marketplace filled with games capable of playing on a mobile chipset in the same way that Meta does. And it's going to take time to get there. I still think that as it stands now, this is not for standalone users. It's for people who want to buy a gaming PC and have wireless access to their headset. I think that's what it is. And so if you currently have a Meta Quest 3, I do think that this is not an upgrade. There are aspects of it that will be useful, that are awesome. But I think that the Quest 3, as it stands now, just offers more with the hand tracking, with the mixed reality, and knowing that anyone who owns a Quest 3 and plays PC VR is doing it with a rig that probably has a 30, 60, 40, 80 in it, if not higher, maybe a 50 series, and they're happy with it. And anyone who has that machine, they're already producing more power than what the Steam machine can offer. And the guys at Steam have gone on to say that this is not a replacement for a AAA gaming machine. This is someone coming in naked who's never owned a headset, who doesn't have a gaming PC, and they want an entry-level experience to where they can play Half-Life Alyx, streaming it from a gaming PC without having to spend $2,500 on some kind of a pre-build. Why would you do that when you can have this Steam machine for $1,400, whatever it might be? And so, you know, if you're on the Quest 3 now, I would suggest you keep using it and hold out, see what the Quest 4 does, what it brings. I'm excited, mostly because this is the competition I wanted. The Galaxy headset is fine. I haven't used it, but it doesn't strike me as being in direct competition with Meta. This is the first headset, aside from the Pico, to really compete with Meta, and I'm here for it. And September 2026 is going to be wild. Let me know what you guys think. I'd love your input. That's just my 2 cents, having not used it, but it's how it seems to me. Thank you to my members. You guys are awesome, and look at this, we're growing all the time. And you can become a member too by clicking right here. And in doing so, you get early access to all my content. And on occasion, we do marble runs, which is just a way of saying thank you and giving back now and again. Please subscribe, like this video, hit that notification bell, all that stuff. You'd be doing me a favor. If you want the Quest 3 headset, you can grab it down below and you'll save a bunch of money. And that's it. You guys have been watching Bringhurst VR. Godspeed.